think 25 years in the telecom business in Thailand has given you gray hair. Try 30 years in the newspaper and media business, and you'll get hair as white as mine. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to be here, and we have two panelists today. We may not stick directly with the topic, but certainly the telecom business and the telecom industry is in Thailand is really going through a crucial period for true cooperation in Thailand. Now, both these gentlemen have been in the telecom business for quite a while, and but first of all, rather than talk specifics, rather than talk about the topic here, which is essentially 3G international best practices, I think we should start off by saying, well, 3G is a topic that's been in Thailand for quite a while, as you all know. Other countries have gone elsewhere, but before we go into that, let me just start. I think in our discussions that we will ask Gajon Zak to first give us his take on the telecom landscape in Thailand and CAT's policies for now. Shall we start off that way, and we'll go to Dr. Atit later. Thank you.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here on the Carrier World Asia 2012, and certainly for the opening key panels. As Khun Pichai mentioned, I think I will start off with introducing you to Thailand telecom landscape, and I hope this will be a benefit for our overseas guests. I believe that in the telecom industries in any country is very dynamic and exciting, and it's not less in Thailand, especially this year, because quite recently we did have new regulators in terms of the National Broadcasting and Telecom Commissioners, and they will be more or less giving out the landscape of the Thai telecoms. Certainly there are a few things that they have been doing, and some of them have been completed, particularly the very importance of the three telecom master plan involving the frequency spectrums, the broadcasting business, and also the telecom businesses. With that in mind, and I believe in the news, they are more or less will give out bidding for the 21,000 megahertz for frequency for the 3Gs, and hopefully it will be within this Q3 this year, and that will certainly introduce further excitement in the Thai telecom business. But if you looking back in terms of 3Gs, in terms of the speed of the bandwidth that the mobile can handle, I believe that we have developed in a few years already the capability of going on a broadband speed on the mobile. But the difference here is that the bidding in this Q3 will be the core frequencies, which it will be more on the acceptance in the use of the frequency rather than the other frequency that we have introduced in Thailand, like the 800 megahertz or the 900 megahertz. So that will be some key differences. Besides the regulators that will more or less putting out laws, regulations, and also proposals, and I believe that as they are news, there are certain things that they also need to be done. In the case of anything that is not clear, they will have to clarify on those issues. And if I may say anything that is not correct, then they will have to try to correct them. The other concerns on the industry will be the policymaker that is under the Ministry of ICT. Certainly there are a few policies that will be highlighted in this year and also in the coming years. And I think you cannot overlook the broadband policies that the current government is trying to introduce. This may also involve both the fixed line as well as the wireless. And with that policies, certainly the Thai government are looking at developing the social, economics, and development in Thailand. Telecom industry is a key infrastructures in helping development in this global economies. The issues here is that when the policies are passed, usually it may not affect private companies as much as the state-owned or state enterprises. So in the sense that normally the state enterprises are looking at the national development as well as the national securities. Although this may be an excuse for some time that there is a need for state enterprise to still be in existence in looking after the telecommunications services on the basis of securities, national security, as well as the to also trying to balance the competitions. But then it's not an easy job. Anyway, besides the mobile competitions in Thailand, which I think affect a lot of people, there are also other competitions for the businesses in terms of the broadband usage, internet usage, like the private lines and the others services. Although it may not affect the public, but then in terms of businesses, there is that opportunities and that competitions ongoing very dynamically. In the sense that once you buy a service, then it's the sense of keeping the customer experience as well as keeping all the service, all the quality of service in line. So in terms of services, even though that it's not well advertised in terms of the data communications, but then for the business organization, they are well aware of those services. Besides the regulators, the policymakers, certainly the operators in Thailand are all very competitive, and I think they have a lot of muscles in terms of trying to be on the competitive edge. Mostly you will see in the news the mobile operators rather than the other operators that are in the news. Like, as I say, the mobiles, the big threes are the AIS, the DTAC, and the TrueMove. But also there are other operators, like the sponsor here, that also competing in the field of the services, even competing with CAT. Maybe that's something that I would introduce you on the Thai landscape, Thai telecom landscape. The other thing I also would like to introduce is the CAT Telecom itself. CAT Telecom is a state-owned enterprise, 100% owned by the Ministry of Finance, and under the authority of the Ministry of ICT. So we have to report to both the ministries. I think it's well known that in most telecom industries, it all starts with more or less a government body, which CAT used to be as a regulator as well as a operators. But in trend of the global, CAT had changed itself and still changing itself. So the keywords today in Thailand or in other telecom world is transformations. And transformation will be something which is a journey rather than one thing that is completed in a year or something. So in that sense, CAT's strategies is also looking at transforming itself internally to try to compete on a global business. I mentioned global business is not just to try to win the Thailand market, but also try to at least compete in a sense with the global industry, because telecom is something which is now borderless in a sense. And I think that CAT will need to do a lot of things. We have a sister company like TOT who will be very similar to CAT beside the other operator. So that will be something that I would like to mention at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Khun Chansat. Dr. Atip, your views on 3G, its benefits to the country and other issues. Just opening remark, please, your take. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I will just expand on from the structure that Khun Chansat has been talking about in terms of internet or the ICT industry in Thailand. The way I view things is that 3G, what it offers in addition to 2G or technology we had before, is the ability to have high-speed internet access. And one of the biggest problems that this country has been facing over the past 10 or 15 years is called digital divide. And I think the recent number, if you were to look at how many people, what the percentage of people in Thailand with access to internet is around 26%. And if you want to look at broadband penetration, it goes a lot lower. It should be around between 2 to 5%. And among the 10 ASEAN countries, we are probably ranked in the bottom tiers. I think we only have better internet penetration than countries like Indonesia, Burma, Laos, and Cambodia. And there are many reasons to blame for this, but one of the most cited reasons is a lack of ability to. Okay, well, for one thing, we may argue that we haven't had a broadband policy like other countries have been having over the past 10 years. And another reason is a problem with our law, the fact that over the past 10 years, our constitution have been rewritten twice, which resulted in the delay in the creation of the body with the power to allocate frequency to have 3G, WiMAX, 4G, and beyond. There was a study by NTC last year that if you want to include 80% of Thailand population under broadband coverage with wired infrastructure, it would probably cost around 500 billion baht. But if we are to use wireless technology, that value would go down to only 20 billion baht. But if you are to look at the annual budget for the ICT ministry, is only 5 billion baht a year. So if the ICT ministry would be spending all of its annual budget to roll out fixed wired infrastructure for high-speed broadband, it probably would take them 100 years. And Okay, and but the problem I was talking about with the Constitution being rewritten too often, which resulted in not having a proper body to allocate frequency, is what has been hurting this country for 10 years. And so we were lucky that the NBTC finally was created last year with full authority to allocate frequency for 3G, 4G, and beyond. So with the frequency allocation that should likely take place this year, then a lot of this may solve a lot of problems that I talked about earlier, the digital divide problem. Okay, and if we are to look at what the NTC, the body that was there before the NBTC, tried to do with its 3G allocation 2 years ago, what they did was they set the objective for anyone who wins a license who have to guarantee up to 80%, or actually at least 80% population coverage. So that would mean that after there's a 3G auction and people start rolling out their network and have 80% population coverage. So if you were to compare that against the percentage of internet penetration today, is about 3 times greater than what we have. But if you were to also consider that 3G also means high-speed internet, then we can we can be looking at around 20 times greater in terms of broadband penetration. And another very interesting trend that is actually happening alongside of 3G that we're talking about today is the rise of smart devices, especially smartphones and tablets. Another number that we have been talking about we have been looking at for a long time in Thailand is, so we have been looking at many reasons as to why internet penetration is a problem. And one of the big reasons is that PC penetration here is very low. It's at around, I think the number I saw from 2 years ago is around 7%. Only 7% of households have access to any kind of computers. So even if the government or NBTC or anyone comes up with 500 billion baht to actually roll out wired infrastructure for broadband, then you will still be having this problem of the majority of the population not having any kind of devices to access the internet. But when we look at another number, which is mobile penetration, then I think the recent number is probably way over 90% or maybe up to 100% of the Thai population now have access to mobile phones. And if you look at, I'm not sure who did the study, there was an estimate that by 2015, around 54% of mobile phones would be smartphones. And if we consider that there would be that many smartphones in the country, and with the rollout of 3G that would happen after NBTC start their auction, then I think it's very easy to see that the digital divide problem will be fixed, and with the catch that mobile devices like smart devices, smartphones and tablets would likely become the main access device for the internet. Okay, and okay, so and okay, another thing, because the topic today is about 3G, and a lot of people here may ask, when we'll start seeing 3G in Thailand. What is going to happen with NBTC is they're planning to do an allocation of 3G at 2100 megahertz around September this year. But what I'm not sure what if in the international community is actually aware that 3G has been available in Thailand for actually 3 or 4 years using the alternative frequencies like 850 or 900. So True, I'm from True, one of the mobile operators. We actually, of the main mobile operators, we are actually the smallest one. And that actually gives us a lot of pressure to try to compete against the two bigger guys. And one of the things that, one of our main strategy is to always try to innovate and be the first in coming up with any kind of new technology. So all the way back from 2008, we start providing 3G at 850 at the same time that we launched iPhone 3, at the same time that we launched iPhone with Apple. And we actually, so we can easily claim that we are the first operator in Thailand with access, with any kind of real experience in launching 3G, and we have learned a lot. We have learned and observed a lot of interesting trends and behavior from how the users, how 3G and smartphones actually transform the way people consume the internet or content. Okay, and I'll get that. I might get into more details in the next setting.
Thank you, Dr. Atik. Before we go, I was just going to ask a question before we open to some questions later from the floor. I'm going to ask Dr. Punka Johnson about global trends with respect to Thailand. But if you could keep this other question in mind, both of you have mentioned that the National Broadcasting and Telecommunications Commission will be auctioning 3G in September, third quarter. What's the roadmap from there? What can we expect? And another question for both of you is, what's the role of foreign players in this landscape moving forward? If you could give us your view and your take on that. Thank you.
There are more or less 3 topics. I'll start off with the global trends. Well, I believe that there are many reports on the global trends, so I'll more or less highlight a few. Let me mention first the consuming bandwidth. There will be a lot of bandwidth that will be consumed during next few years. This bandwidth increase certainly will affect our life, whether it's social, whether it's businesses, in the sense that when there is a forecast on this consumption of bandwidth, certainly there will be a lot of things coming out, whether it's a network, whether it's a terminal, whether it's applications. So in the trends with the use of bandwidth that is going to be enormous. Certainly, as I mentioned earlier, telecom industry will have an effect on the social and economy of the countries. So to keep into the games, yes, even the policymakers and the operators will have to try to develop and catch up on those bandwidth, which certainly will be a lot of opportunities and a lot of revenues coming up. The next thing that I would like to mention is the cloud computing. I think you have to accept that cloud computing will be coming, whether it's currently, now, and there will be a lot more coming. So with that cloud computing, there will be a host of applications, contents, and even data that will be host on those cloud computings, and they will be more or less transferred with the terminals. But cloud computing is something that will be a topics and something which will be implemented everywhere. So with the cloud computing, I have to touch next on maybe the access network, or in this case it could be 3Gs or even the 4Gs that will be the next step, or certainly for Thailand, there will be some discussions, also some demonstration of the 4G capabilities already. This access network, in terms of mobile, there are many advantages versus the fixed line. But then the access network itself, we also have the fixed line like the fibers to the X whatever. So that is something that will be more or less happening. As I said, the global trends is something that will be happen everywhere, but to varying degrees. The variation will more or less depending on the country, on the environments, and on the landscape. And the next, I think Dr. Achit mentioned already, is the terminal or the smartphone that will be having a big boom. I think in Thailand we use a lot of smartphone even before the 3Gs, but that is something of being a fashionable, being a prestige, but in the future it will be we'll use rather than just to have something expensive to carry around. But that is something that very obvious in that sense. I mentioned earlier the transformations, and the transformation of the it will not only for the big carriers but also for the small carriers. Those transformations will, as I say, it's a journey. It's not just one thing that you complete in 1 year and then you live for that, because they are so dynamic in this industry. So for that transformations, it may involve the process, the people, or even the business models. I think we all accepted that in the carrier world, business model has been transforming itself in a sense that it's not typical wholesale that you can talk just one or two, but then you have to talk more than one to try to benefit from the wholesale business. So in that sense, this multiple business partnering is something that is will stay on, and I believe that it will be more and more so as I believe that the margins for the wholesale is going down, but hopefully the volumes are going up, and that is how I think we can more or less sustain our business in these industries. For the second point on the, I think the 3G rollout in Thailand, I believe that it will be the NBTC who will give the confirmed answer. So in my views, I think I will answer in both questions how the foreigners can more or less participate in the 3G's rollout in Thailand. I believe that certainly the big three carriers or operators in Thailand will participate, and in that sense there will be competitions that in terms of rollout plans, in terms of how quickly you can install the network, how quickly you can commission the networks. I believe that in that sense, we'll try to be number one. They will have to try to make it faster, and in terms of that, there will be an opportunity for some small subcontractors who could help in terms of installations, in terms of testing, commissioning the networks. So that is something that is a possibilities. And also, even though the application and contents for existing mobile are well in advance, I believe that with the 3Gs, with the larger possible bandwidth, the newer application and contents will also be joining in. So that is something that definitely going to be an opportunities in that sense. And I believe that to ensure the installation, that there need to be management or workers who be experts in other countries who be more or less coming into Thailand to try to help with a lot of this excitement, with a lot of this new things going on in Thailand during the end of the years and next year. So that would be my.
So I'll try to answer a little bit of question on the issue of foreign investment. I think in terms of, I'll try to answer this in two ways, because the audience in this room probably comes from both the telecommunication industry and also related supported areas. In terms of telecommunication, the current law system in the country only allows foreigners to invest up to 49%. But there could be cases where people try to do this through nominee structure, but it's questionable whether that such practice is legal or not. And but in the end, as a player in Thailand, we always welcome more competition. But if you want to enter the industry in this country, so you should do your best to observe what is the current legal implication, because there's a lot of confusion going around and a lot of court cases exactly on this topic over the past couple of years. But another angle I want to look at for foreign investment is with the rise, with the allocation of 3G and widespread of smartphones. Another thing that we would definitely see is increase in use of data services, data and content services. So I think there would be a lot of opportunity for investment in this area. So because for a long time, Thailand has been, the content industry in Thailand has been very small. If you want, for example, if you look at the total value of media industry in Thailand, it's around 100 billion baht, and around 60% of that goes into TV, but only around 1%, which is around 1 billion baht, goes into any kind of online content. And it has been that number, that percentage, for the past 10 years. Whereas if you look at a country like UK, then you see that online content is already worth more than TV content. I think it's 26 versus 24%. And a lot of this may be attributed to the digital divide problem that I was talking about earlier. And all of this, or the majority of this, may actually go away with 3G and everyone accessing internet through smartphones. Perhaps the value of online content will actually go up and be more competitive with other countries in the region. And another example I want to point out to is just example from the online industry as well. If you look at most of the countries in Asia, if you look at most of the countries in Asia and look at search engine or social media, then you find that countries like China, Japan, Russia, and I'm not sure about Taiwan or Vietnam, they all have their own local players. They all have their own local players because the industry has enough value to actually have a lot of players interested in investing to actually create something. But if you look at Thailand, Google has 99.99% market share for search engine in Thailand because we actually have, because Google has no local competitor. But if you look at the numbers for all of the other Asian countries or Asian countries, you'd find that Google's key strength is in countries that use the English character or Roman character. But for most of the Asian countries, for a long time, Google did not have more than 10% market share because there was always a local player. But Thailand is one of the markets where Google is very proud of because they have no local competitor, which allows them to have 99.99% market share. And a similar story can actually be talked about when you look at social media, social network like Facebook, in that we have no strong or valid competitor to these guys as well. So what? So my message here is my message here is that 3G and smartphones would hopefully increase the value of this segment that we're talking about and allows there to be a new investment or creation of local players so that perhaps we could be seeing something like or something similar to Silicon Valley in Thailand that you would see in Vietnam or Singapore. But for a long time, we have never seen anything like that in Thailand. Okay, I would like to get back to what I was talking about earlier about 3G frequency allocation, in how it would actually impact or how it would have impact on Thailand's development. So another thing that should be pointed out is Thailand is one of the very few countries in the world that has auction specifically written into the law as the only way to do any kind of frequency allocation. And if you are to look at the majority of the countries, I believe beauty contest has been actually, beauty contest and granted has actually been the more deferred method recently. But there has always been a debate in Thailand as to what should be the regulator's role or objective in actually allocating 3G. We have one side of academics who argue that the purpose should be to allocate 3G for the best development of the country. But we will see another camp would argue that the purpose should be to earn the most revenue from auction. And the regulator should act as one of the biggest tax collectors that this country has ever known. So we are always facing this debate. We faced this debate about 2 years ago when the NTC tried to do the auction, which was stopped by the by the court. And we're about to be revisiting this question again. So anyone, foreigners or local players coming into this market would have to be facing this question of how to play in this of how to play in this game or this market where it may not be clear what the regulator or the policy maker has in mind in allocating the frequencies.
Thank you. We're going to have some time for questions, but I think time has run out. I'd just like to comment that as both gentlemen said, the National Broadcasting and Telecommunications Commission, they're new. They'll have a role to play, I guess, in the third quarter. It's not just in the telecom business. We're in the broadcasting business and news business. So we'll be facing the same fate, I think. Let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, that if you have any further questions, but I'd like to suggest as you speak to Dr. Atib straight away. I'm not sure if they'll be staying on much further, but I'm sorry, time is up. On behalf of the organizers, I'd like to thank both gentlemen here for sparing their time to give us their views and observations on the 3G and the landscape for Thailand moving ahead. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.